Welcome to the Read Your Keys podcast. I'm your host, Joel Lopez. If you are enjoying the content, please go ahead and follow, subscribe, smash the appropriate buttons on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. Today I have another returning guest, my friend Stephen Marshall. He runs The Man's Life. You can find him on Twitter at The Man's Life and his website, themanslife.com. Stephen, welcome back, brother.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me back. You never know after you do one of these whether you ever be invited back or not. So I'm honored and glad to talk to you again.
Well, that's kind of one of my I like this to be like two friends talking, and the first conversation can kind of be like, hey, like, do you like talking to me? I like talking to you. Hopefully you'd like to come back because I don't know. I think as you get more comfortable with each other, then you're able to talk about different things. I mean, we have interactions on Twitter, but it's restrained by the 280 characters. I actually don't like typing, so I think that's why I was resistant to Twitter. I like talking, so a lot of my interactions on Twitter are like, hey, who's fun to talk to? Who's interesting? Yeah, who's interesting? Who do I like? Who do I like engaging with? And then being able to invite them on and talk. And so that's kind of that was one of my goals when I started. It was like, hey, I'd like to talk to people, but I'd like to be able to talk to them multiple times, not just, hey, I'm talking to you one time and finding the next person. It's like, no, people are really interesting, and you don't get, everything out of a 1 hour 2 hour conversation. I mean, you can get a lot, but I think people are really interesting where it's like you can talk to them multiple times, and you're one of those people where like I'd like to talk to you more and more. There's a lot of things that you know and understand, have experienced, can see, that I think is really helpful for a person like me and other people.
Yeah, my translation of that, Joel, is you're saying I'm old, and that's all right.
Well, you did have the heavy D tape, right? You posted the picture of you in 1991.
Yeah, man. I grew up in rural Kentucky. My hometown, the sign has said population 3,800 people for my entire life. And so I was this high school kid in rural Kentucky, and so were all my friends. And we just thought we were the coolest guys in the world, listening to Heavy D and Easy E and all that stuff. And it's like, man, what a bunch of dorks, probably. But we thought we were big time. So yeah, I can definitely talk that stuff with you.
What's funny is I'm in Arizona now, but I have a buddy who's about a little older than me, but because I was from originally from LA, and then so when all the new music would come out, he would say like people would from LA would come over here and be like you guys just got that song, like that's been out for a long time. So I think it's even a longer back then to go from LA to Phoenix to all the way to rural Kentucky.
Yeah, man, we were probably getting the rappers when they were ready to retire. We were getting their new stuff. So yeah, exactly.
But the equivalent now would be like the Indian casino or the Vegas show, right? That's kind of like, oh, okay, you've played the big venues. Now it's time to hit Vegas or the Indian casinos.
Yeah, now you're just coasting into retirement.
You're trying to squeeze every last dollar you can before that well runs dry.
So do you remember Twitter back when it was 140 characters? Were you around then?
No, I wasn't. I had like my Twitter. I think it says like 2011, but I never used it. I had it because it was like, hey, this is a thing, and then I was like, I don't understand this. This is stupid, and so I left it alone. So no, I wasn't around for the 140.
I think it was around 2018 or so. It moved from 140 to 280, and everybody predicted doom, that it was going to be so bad, but 280 works. I just wondered if you were around back in the 140 days.
Dude, were you tweeting back then?
I was terrible at it because I actually tried to express complete thoughts and nuance and things like that, and nobody paid any attention to that.
Not the place. Hot takes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll say I'll post stuff because I just think it's funny. So I'll say stuff that maybe I kind of believe or not, but I just like to joke for a lot of like that's I get a lot of entertainment out of it. So most of the time I'm just joking.
Yeah, yeah. I laugh at a lot of your stuff, man.
I was like, I don't like my wife saw some of my tweets. She's like, Joel, why did you say that? I was like, I just thought it was funny, babe. It's like I just thought it was funny. It's like I think
Hey,
I
look,
don't know.
if your wife is happy with your Twitter account all the time, you just need to burn it and throw it away because you're not doing
Yeah,
it right. She's got to be a
yeah.
little bit upset with you, or nervous, or embarrassed, or something.
You know what? Because I do I do embarrass her. Like I'll say stuff in public. Like I'll say stuff out loud. Um, I think I think there's a part of her that enjoys that I can do. Like I don't ever like make fun of her or anything, but I bring attention and I'll say things and you know you just get that, Joe, why did you say that out loud? And it's just like I wanted to. And so I think that's one of the things that keeps the marriage interesting is you know
Oh yeah,
well,
if you're getting that feigned embarrassment or
mhm,
whatever it is, you know it's
yeah,
not real. Like they're not
uh-huh,
really mad, but they're just
uh-huh,
kind of, oh, why'd you do that? It's so
yeah,
embarrassing. Yeah, you
uh-huh,
that's gold, man.
yeah.
You're in the sweet spot when you do that.
In the sweet spot, and so I'm living in the sweet spot, man. I got the four kids, and now they're getting it. Like one of my kids had a sports ball game, and you know it was pretty quiet, and I'm proud dad, and I'm pretty quiet because I don't want to distract them because like I understand like hey that they're working and they're focused, but um, I want them to know that daddy is there and that daddy is cheering and daddy is for them. And so my kid was, I think, embarrassed, but also kind of like proud too. It's like, oh my dad is here and my dad is supporting me, which I think is big. So you know, I try to be aware that I want to be supportive and loud and but also like, hey, because sports matters to me. So I want them to be able to perform, and I don't want to distract from them performing because I know that they work hard at that. So I don't want to take away. I just want it to be like because I like when I played sports, I always liked like hearing the moms cheer for us or their sons. And I always like because like we had like you know some of the loud moms. It's like yeah, I thought always that was pretty cool. It's like hey, they're here for their kids. They're here supporting us. Like I want that for my kids and their teammates. Like yeah, like I'm supporting my kid and I'm supporting you guys here to because you guys work hard and I want you guys to do well and perform.
Man, figuring out how to be a good sports dad, that's one of the toughest things about being a dad because you want to, I'm the same way as you are. I love it. I'm eating up with it. I can't get enough. And when my kids are out there, uh, I coached my oldest son for most of his baseball career. I eventually handed him off. Uh, but when I'm at their games, man, they know that I'm there, and you can cross the line with that. You
Mm-hmm.
can get into where I've seen parents and kids where the kids are completely reliant on their parent to know what to do next.
Hmm.
After every swing in baseball, their parents coaching something. And so after
Hmm.
every swing, guess what the kid does? They're looking at their parent.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
after every play. And you don't want that. You
No.
want your kid to know that you're there, that they're supported, dad's got my back, but it's their game. And they've got
Right.
to figure out how to, operate independently. And so, yeah, walking that line, man, that's one of the toughest things that you'll do as a dad.
Well, that too, and then and like I want their coach to coach. Like
Yeah.
I'm not your coach. Like and they're not playing any sports where I'm any kind of an expert in or anyway. So that you know there's that. But you know I understand basic sports though too. So it's like this doesn't look good. But still, it's like hey let the coach coach. I'm not trying to undermine anything that they're doing. And because yeah, you can see other parents. They're you know they're given instructions during the game, and to me it's like that's too late. Like they're not gonna they're in the stress of the game. Like if I'm doing any coaching, like when I coached, all the coaching I did was you know Monday, you know in practice. That was when all my coaching come game time. Like I'm not coaching at you. I'm not yelling at you. Hey, I'm gonna remind you of certain things, but if we didn't go over it in practice, like I'm really not going to bring it up now.
Yeah.
It's too late, and you're not going to retain. It's just going to confuse you. So If we're going to do it wrong, just do it wrong full speed for now, and then we'll correct it later. That's kind of was my approach.
Yep, and that's a good one. That's a good one because I mean, players that are thinking too much, they're not playing fast and loose, and players that aren't playing fast and loose aren't reaching their potential. So yeah,
right.
That's a great way to go about it.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that you too, because like yeah, man, you're trying to give him like, oh, correct your elbow and your mechanics and stuff. Like, it's game time, man. This is not the time to try and coach up mechanics or anything like that. You're too late. You should have done that way before. So to me, it's kind of a waste of time out. I think it's more for the coach or the adult to feel like they're doing something, and you're not doing anything.
Yeah, amen.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, Steven, is last time, I don't know, I think it's been a good year. We had talked about because you are a real estate attorney. We had talked about the eviction moratorium, and I thought that thing would have been done and gone. I think because originally it was supposed to end in 2020, right? And then it kept on getting extended.
Yeah, the first time around, it started September 4th of 2020 and was
that was the first one.
2020.
That was when they put it into place, correct?
Yeah, that's when the Trump administration, their CDC, put it into place, and it was scheduled to end on December 31st. Then it got extended through, I believe, through April 30th, and then again through June 30th, and then again through July 31st. Then it expired on July 31st for all of 3 days. And then on August 3rd, they instituted a new moratorium that was scheduled to end on October the 3rd. But the U.S. Supreme Court stepped in late last Thursday night and said, nope, CDC, you're beyond your bounds.
Okay.
And so it can no longer be enforced. And so it's over for now. The only way it's coming back as a national moratorium is if Congress takes action to institute it. Even then, it's going to face some legal challenges, but that's the only way it's coming back as a national measure. There are still state moratoriums or moratoria in various states. My state, unfortunately, is not one of those.
Your state does not have the moratorium.
No, we don't have a statewide moratorium.
Okay. Yeah, because that was the whole. I'm no legal scholar, but it's just like, hey, here you have the CDC, a government agency, just saying, basically legislating from bureaucracy coming from a layperson. It's like, that seems crazy. Like, what recourse do landlords, because the landlords are still having to pay. I mean, they were able to defer those payments, but I mean, that's still getting interest on it. That still has to get paid back. It's not the same as being able to pay it the time of. So that seemed like some pretty scary stuff. And I was going to ask you, is like, what recourse do they have? Because that doesn't seem legal for the CDC to be able to just dictate nationally that, hey, I know I think there were some fine rules in there. It wasn't actually a moratorium. There had to be certain things that needed to be met. But I mean, I'm not in the trenches like you were, but that's what I had read. Because for me as a person, like, I loved Monopoly, so I had rental properties. I don't have any right now, but it's like, hey, this is a great way to make a living and to build wealth generationally. To see that something like that happen that quickly, it's like, whoa, I don't know if that's the best vehicle anymore, because somebody else could just come in and say this. It's like, I'm sure there was a lot of landlords that were put in some pretty desperate situations.
Yeah, there were very few landlords who had their mortgage payments deferred. That was only a very small slice of landlords. Everyone else, they're still making their mortgage payment. They're still paying their property taxes. They're still paying their insurance on their properties, and they're still having to pay to maintain their properties. None of that gets deferred. And that's whether the tenant is paying the landlord or not. So yeah, that was a particularly tough situation for a landlord to get put in, where they still have to pay their bills. But if their tenant doesn't pay them, they can't get rid of the tenant. Last year we saw a lot of lockdowns where businesses were forced to close, and that was bad stuff. But it was much worse for landlords, because not only are they being denied their income from their tenants, they're also denied their inventory. They don't get their housing back, and they don't get the money. So it's basically akin to the government stepping in and requiring restaurants to provide free food to their customers. You don't get the food and you don't get the money from it. So it's just, man, it was a rock and a hard place for sure. And there were obligations tenants had to meet to be protected, but it was very easy to meet those obligations.
Was okay.
And it just depended on what court you were in as to whether courts would even probe into whether the tenant was meeting their obligations or not. On the government side of it, they pumped a ton of money or allocated a ton of money for rental assistance. I think it was $25 billion to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
My state got $264 million of that. My city got $29 million. This was back in February of this year.
Mm-hmm.
As of last week, my city had paid out around $5 million of the $29 million since February.
Mm-hmm.
The wheels on getting that stuff paid out incredibly slow. So that was supposed to be the solution, is we'll just spend all this money for rental assistance, but it's not getting into the hands of the landlords at any acceptable rate of speed.
Well, the thing too is that money going to go to the tenants, or is it going to go directly to the landlords? Because if it goes to the tenants, then they technically, I mean, they could not pay still. So now you have that logistical hurdle.
Yeah, that back in 2020 in the fall, a lot of rental assistance was coming out, and it was going to the tenant. But in January, the CARES Act or the Appropriations Act that allocated the $25 billion, that is to go directly from the government to the landlord.
Okay. Yeah, they're, I don't know. I think of like small business and landlords. They're kind of the I'll just say like the farmers of previous eras, small, productive, and if they get wiped out, I don't know. That just doesn't seem sustainable for a lot of things. So I've had my eye on that, because I really like real estate. I've always liked real estate. That was like one of my first like passions in business was real estate, and to see just that whole takeover, really overnight. Not through Congress, because I mean, like you said, Congress can do that. I mean, but that's the role of Congress, is to to pass laws, and it goes through vigorous debate, not just one day the head of whatever agency deciding, hey, this is where, because that's what happened 3 days later, right? It was like it expired, and then it was like, no, we're still going to continue this, and it's like, whoa, what country are we living in where this can just happen that way? I mean, you're basically saying there's no, if this is the way it goes, then you're basically saying there's no private property, and that was, to me. I'm not a fearful guy, but it's like, that does not look good.
Yeah, it was all based on this statute from, I believe, 1944 that Congress had passed, and it gives the Secretary of, I believe it's the Department of Health and Human Services that oversees the CDC. It gives them the ability to take, and it's got this little clause at the end of the law, to take any steps they deem necessary to protect public health. And so they base this CDC eviction moratorium on that little catch-all clause at the end of the law as a step they deem necessary to protect public health.
Right.
And so when the courts, got a hold of that and said, look, that is not what is meant. That is not, that type of broad authority is not what's given to the CDC. If they want to take things that take steps that directly affect public health, fine. But interfering in private contracts, interfering in real estate, that doesn't qualify. You've exceeded your authority. The moratorium's got to end. So this was just a clear case where sometimes government picks winners and losers. They picked the landlords to be the losers here. There's no way around it. So I was glad to see it come to an end, for sure.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of goes back to just the, how careful things need to be worded when you're crafting laws, right, or legislating. Because I mean, there's this catch-all that clearly in context was meant for just from a health perspective, but then it's like, okay, we're going to use this, and even though it was wrong, I mean, we still have, I mean, what, so September, a good 6, 7, 8 months of chaos.
Oh yeah,
because of that. So I don't know. I'm the older I get, the more and more leery I am of new laws, just because for that reason. It's just, is it okay, we have this goal, it's a good goal, but when we put it through and the legislation is there, is it going to be worded where somebody can misconstrue it and use it to do something that was not intended for at all? Because I think that's what happens a lot of the times. Like, hey, here's this good thing, we want clean air, great. You just put through a act that said clean air, but no kind of restrictions on it, and now you can dip into other parts where it wasn't intended for at all. So I'm glad the Supreme Court came in and corrected that.
You and me both, man. You and me both. It really highlights the importance of having good judges who are faithful to the text of the law and the understanding of the law when it's passed, because they're drafting legislation's hard. You can never
Mm-hmm.
cover everything, that you can never think of every potential application. And so sometimes you do have to stick those, and any other step they deem necessary types of things in
Mm-hmm.
there
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. But what you need are judges who actually care about the intention of the law, the understanding of the law when it was passed, and they can step in and say, no, 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 that doesn't that's not what was intended by this law. That's not what it means, and they can take the appropriate action. The problem with that is the legal system just takes forever for things to get through the
Mm-hmm.
system to get to what there's always another appeal until you get to the top, and that just it takes a long time.
Are you still connected to like going back to law school and seeing like new law school students come out, or are you're pretty removed from that now?
Well, my nephew is a third year law student,
Okay.
so through him, I'm somewhat connected to it.
Does it seem like law and law professors have changed from the time that you went to school?
Well, there's no doubt that with each passing year, there is less, just as a broad principle, there's less concern among legal scholars for what the law means. You know,
Hmm.
the, back when Trump was president, there was this idea that facts don't matter anymore. Well, among legal scholars, it seems like the language of the law and the original
Hmm.
understanding of the law seem to matter less and less.
Hmm.
And so, if you once you become untethered from the text of the law and what the people that passed that law understood it to mean, then the sky's the limit.
Right.
You can interpret that law to mean anything that you want, including what you think the best outcome is in the case in front of you.
Right.
And yeah, and whenever that's the case, Justice Scalia would say, then we're no longer a society of laws, we're a society of men.
Right. And you have kangaroo courts, and it's just because it seems like before you would have a case and you would apply the law to the case. That's what the role of a judge. Or now it's you want to. It seems like the judge might have an intent and then fit the intent into there to get the intent out of it beforehand. And it's like going back, it's like, well, they're going into these law schools, they're learning that somewhere. Has there been a fundamental change amongst legal professors? Because I think of like the ACLU when I was a kid, it was like, hey, we're going to defend your right to say it even if we don't agree with it. And now the ACLU is like, you know what, we're not going to take this person's cause up because we don't agree with them, so we're not going to back them up, we're going to back these people up. And it's like, you know it just seems like, and then there's a lot of legal support for the ACLU still because it has that name. It's like, oh, it's the ACLU. The ACLU supports it. Of course, yeah, yeah. They're for rights. But it's like, well, no, no, no. That's not the same. That's not the same organization that was, 40 years ago. You know, whether you thought it was right or wrong, who were protecting the right of Nazis to march in Skokie, Illinois. It's like that's not right, but they have a right
Yeah,
to do it. And now it's like, well, no, now they're picking the winners and losers. So it's like, well, has there been a fundamental change amongst the legal profession, whether you're going to school in Kentucky, whether you're going to school in California, where you're going in Yale? It's like, well, everybody is saying, you know what, the words don't matter so much. There's not enough
yeah.
professors saying the words matter.
Yeah, everything starts. We talked about things starting in LA and getting to Arizona and then to rural Kentucky. Well, in the legal world, everything starts at the Ivy League schools
Mm-hmm.
and it
Mm-hmm.
flows out from there. So yeah, it's
Okay.
certainly going on there, and it's an outcome based way of thinking. You figure
Mm-hmm.
out the outcome that you want, then you figure out a legal theory that will get you to that outcome,
Mm-hmm.
rather than being committed to certain legal principles and being willing to follow them to whatever outcome they lead you to, which is
Right.
the way things ought to be done.
Well, just what came to my mind is Atticus Finch is the hero, right? He's defending a black man in the South because of the law. He didn't really care that he was black. It was like no, the law mattered because it was the words that mattered. And now I don't think Atticus Finch would be the hero. Um, I don't know if that's fair to say, but just from the standpoint of like, okay, you need more Atticus Finches, right? Like, but if you're going to school and that's not what you're being taught, you're decreasing the likelihood of getting that type of a lawyer, because the lawyers eventually become judges too, right? And that's important.
Yeah, yeah. No, people now want to cancel Atticus Finch.
They do, right? Because I think there was the follow up book, and he wasn't so nice. I didn't read the book. Did you read that one?
No, I did not.
I figured I would leave it alone too. It's like, I'll just stay over here where things are nice. But that's something that I think about. It's like, okay, you have these judges, these students that are going to school, and this is what they're learning. You know, how do you change the tide? Because the Ivy Leagues, they are the heavyweights, right? Like everybody wants to be like the Ivies. They're still prestigious. um is there a law school you would say, like, you know what, this is they're still like your nephew's school? Would you don't have to name it or anything, but you say, oh, that they're doing pretty good there. I think they're going to turn out good lawyers, because I think me and you both agree that a good lawyer is one that adheres to what the words are. Like the contract says what it says. if
Yeah,
if like in real estate, if you say the price is X, then the price is X. You don't get to change that price. And that's what lawyers are doing, right? It's like, no, we're going to make it Y. It's like, no, 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 I agreed to X. So just fundamentally, just so we're on the same page.
yeah. Now those schools are definitely out there. They're usually private,
Mm-hmm.
or you'll have a group of professors within a public school who are committed to that way of thinking. So yeah, that remnant exists.
Okay. And they're much needed, and hopefully become in high demand, right? I think with the decentralization of things, with the internet and stuff, and online school becoming more prevalent, especially after last year, right? It was like everybody was online. I think before, online school had you know it's like, oh, online school, it's not as good as in person, but it's like they just did it, and they were still paying full tuition to not be on campus.
Right.
I think there might be a pendulum swing back, because I think without that, we lose the guardrails of a society, right? To not
Yep.
be able to go and trust the judges, like that's not good for us as a country.
Agreed. Agreed. Right on.
So moving on, man. What else is new? I actually just went to Yellowstone, and I thought of you because we saw
You didn't
we saw
shoot
some.
anything, did you?
I did not, but I
Okay,
thought
good.
of you because I wanted to see some bison, and we saw some bison, and they were glorious, man. But I saw some elk, and I was like, man, Steven would have loved seeing. They're just right here, and he could just take his bow and just he could just let loose and get arrested. But they're right here, man.
Yeah, I'm going on an elk hunt right at the week after Christmas.
Are you really out there
Yeah,
out there in Kentucky?
yeah. Every year, Kentucky restocked our elk herd. I forget how long ago, 10 or 15 years ago, and there are fewer elk than there are people that want to hunt them.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a lottery system,
Mm-hmm.
and my son and I have been applying for the last 4 years or so, and I got drawn this year. So the week
Nice.
after Christmas, going on an elk hunt. It's a rifle hunt, not
Oh, it
for a
is.
bull, only for a cow, which is the female
Uh,
version of the elk.
uh,
But the meat tastes the same, so it's going to be a blast.
It is a beautiful animal, man. I couldn't believe how like you know you've seen deer, you see deer, and they're nice, but the elk were they were something else, man. They were just walking around in the park, you know, in the like they had a little courthouse area. They're just eating their grass and doing their thing. Man, I was like, man, that's a pretty animal. It really is.
Yeah, they really are. They're beautiful. The bulls are so majestic. I mean, their antlers are amazing. And when you catch them when they're in the rut, when they're ready to breed,
Mm-hmm.
the male bugle, man, they just bugle, and that's how they call out to find potential mates and see what other elk are in the area. It's just amazing when you get them all going at once. And so, yeah, I'm a huge fan of elk. So I'm
Did
glad you got to
you
see some.
Did you have you been doing quite a bit of hunting this past year, or because I know you're busy with your kids and they're a little older, so their travel, baseball, and things like that might take you out a little more.
Yeah, so I think I've had 2 free weekends in 2021, but fortunately, hunting season doesn't start until the fall for the big game species. Now you can hunt squirrels and things like that. There are some predators, coyotes that you can hunt, but the big game hunting for deer and elk and turkeys that starts in the fall. And so
Mm.
opening season for deer with a bow starts this Saturday.
Oh, okay.
So
Are you gonna head out there, or I mean, it's
I'm
either
not.
that or
Now,
watch
I
Kentucky
like to wait
football.
until it's a little colder. In Kentucky, we were this past weekend. I was at a softball tournament. It was 95 degrees every
Mm.
day, and
Okay.
so that's just not good hunting weather to me. If you get an animal down and can't find it quickly, I mean, you're looking at some serious meat
Uh.
spoliation,
Mhm.
and plus it's just miserable being out there just sweating your ass off.
Yeah, you
Trying
got
to
all your
hunt, and
gear
so
on. Yeah.
and the bugs are crazy, the ticks are crazy this time of year. So I like for the wait for the first cold front,
Hmm.
and then get out there. And so it'll be probably a few weeks before I go hunt. But man, as soon as season actually opens and my mind starts thinking, okay, you could be out there hunting right now.
Hmm.
Uh, man, my blood just starts pumping a little bit, and
Yeah.
I get real anxious to get
Because
out there.
this will be like year three for you, or year two of you actually like being
It
an
will be
active.
This will be year 3 with my
Uh,
bow, year 4 on my own, and year 5 overall.
okay. Yeah, I think that's why that's why I really like talking to you, Steven, because I feel like I'm the same. I'm a white collar guy. I'm in the suburbs.
Yeah,
I'm comfortable all the time. Like I was talking to some friends, and it was like we were in Yellowstone, and we saw Old Faithful. We saw there's some cool things, right? But we found a creek, and it wasn't a deep creek or anything, but it just had some, because I'm from the desert too, right? So you got to keep that in mind. So we don't have like nice creeks with trees and like grass and stuff. But we parked along, and my kids were just like immersed, like they're completely immersed in, like they were dropping things in the creek and just following it along. And it's just like that's what I want for my kids. I want them to have these experiences in nature. um we limit them on their technology. Like we have like an iPad, but they all share it, and they're limited on it. But they could get it. They're like like me and Twitter, right? Like I was talking to Save Your Sons. He was like, when I had a Game Boy, like I was entranced with that Game Boy, and that thing was, um, you remember Game Boys? They're just black and white. They were like
yeah,
nothing compared to what they have now. And it's like I like to mess with my phone, so I have to be very aware of it. And so it's what the kids have access to now, like they can get sucked into that stuff. But when you see them like out in nature, and they're just like get a stick and just doing whatever, trying to pull up rocks, skipping rocks, like I'm showing them how to skip rocks, and they're just enamored with being outside in nature. Like once they get over the drive and the complaining of the whole thing, it's like they love that. Was like their favorite part is just being there. It's like that's what I want for my kids, is to have that, and to be able to like add on the layer of, hey, maybe we can hunt an animal and eat the animal. I think it's just, we're so disconnected. I think this is a theme about what me and you talk about. We're so disconnected from our food, from even like today I went for a walk and like my feet were hurting, like because I think I've been sitting too much. So I took off my shoes and I can feel the grass. It's like, oh, my ankles feel better now because I'm feeling the actual, I'm not in my tennis shoes. I'm not in my sandals. I think that's what messed me up is it's hot here. So I was walking in sandals,
Yeah.
but I was walking barefoot. So it's just like, man, we need to get out more. And I have to be very intentional about getting my kids out there. So that's why I like talking to you, because I think you saw that and you're like, I need to get out there too. And for me, it's like, dang, that's like a new position in sports, right? It's like, hey, I'm out of place here. I don't know what I'm doing, but 5 years down the line, now it's like, okay, now I'm comfortable and I know what it looks like. I know what the season looks like. All those things that come into it. It's just like, yeah, that's pretty good, man.
Yeah, that there's just no substitute for it. We were not meant to do what I do every day, which is sit at a desk all day long.
Mm-hmm.
We're not meant to sit in air conditioning all day long. Now, look, I was outside a softball tournament all weekend, and I'm thrilled to get back in the air conditioning, get some
Mm-hmm.
relief from it.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's your entire existence, man, it's just not what we're made for. And so there's always going to be, and you used a great word, a disconnect. And we need to get reconnected to the outdoors, get reconnected to nature, and make that just a normal thing for our kids. There are too many kids, especially during the pandemic when there were lockdowns, where their reality was to sit inside and look at a screen all day long.
Yeah.
Man, you talk about the perfect recipe for anxiety and mental health issues. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can make it to where your kids, their reaction to being up and not having something to do is to be outside, that's just a great habit and a great quality that's going to pay off with more peace of mind, and I think more peace in your soul.
Yeah.
And those are the things that when you reach a certain age, they matter so much.
Mm-hmm.
We, as husbands and fathers, look, we got to make money. We want to make money. We want to do
Mm-hmm.
all these other things, but to have peace in our soul and peace in our mind and have a quiet mind, be able to get that, you can't put a price tag on it. And so nature gives you that.
Yeah.
There's a fantastic book that came out, or I think it came out in May, called The Comfort Crisis by
Mm.
Michael Easter. Every man in the world needs to read that book. And the gist of the book is, as the title suggests, that we have a crisis of too much comfort in our modern world. But
Mm-hmm.
one particular part of it examined spending time in nature. And it looked at 3 different levels that would give you benefit. 15 minutes a day, according to research, will give you some additional peace of mind, some additional happiness over less than that. 3 days a month takes you to another place. It quiets your mind, and it gives you more happiness than just the 15 minutes a day. And then I want to say it's, I've lost it. There's one other level of it
Uh-huh.
that it goes from 15 minutes to 3 days to this other level, and the benefits just keep becoming exponential. And so it was really cool reading that book to see the research confirm kind of what had been stirring in my soul of, look, we got to get outside.
Yeah.
There's peace out there. There's happiness out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just really cool to see, that there's actual science behind it.
Yeah. Hey, Steven, the 3 days, were they saying 3 consecutive days outside or just three
It was
total?
it was 3, I think it was 3 consecutive days.
Hmm.
Because the point is to be out there, don't have your phone with you.
Yeah.
And at 3 days, you get disconnected enough that your mind really starts to quieten down.
You know what's
and you
funny?
start
Because it's
getting-
like, what makes sense, because when I go on vacation, it takes me a good 2 to 3 days to get into the vacation.
Yeah.
So it's like it's like, oh, if you take like a 3-day vacation, on day 3, it's like, oh, now I'm finally ready to relax, and now we got to go. So that makes a lot of sense, and I think that if you're not we'll just say in the financial place to take those 3 days off in a row every single month, and that makes sense why there's so much anxiousness and anxiety. It's like you're not getting that 15. Most people, I think, aren't getting those 15 minutes a day, and then you're in your car. Because I think about like, man, there's never time in history where it's like you're driving down the highway at 80 miles an hour and you can like check your text or check like the playlist that's going on, and you have all this stuff going, and that's completely normal now. Or you're stuck in traffic and you're paying attention to in stop and go traffic, and you're checking your phone for
Mhm.
whatever, and then you have kids in the back, or it's like it makes sense why people are anxious.
Yeah.
It really does. What you think about it, it's like you're not getting your 15 minutes is not that long, but to the effort to do that, it's like for me, like eating fruit. I don't know what it is. Like fruit's good for me. I like fruit, but if it's not like grapes ready to go, it's like I don't want to peel an orange. Like
Yeah.
I'd rather open up the bag of chips. It's just easier for some reason in my brain. It's easier to open a bag of chips than to peel an orange. 15 minutes, it's nothing.
I've got a great solution for you on that.
What's that?
So I know you're a big college football fan.
Mm-hmm.
Here at the University of Kentucky, we got a new quarterback. His name is Will Levis,
Okay.
transferred from Penn State. There was a viral video of him I think it's 2 weeks ago. It made it to Good Morning America. He's eating a banana and does not peel it. You got to check this out. Our
Mm-hmm.
quarterback, our QB1, is on another level here at
Yeah.
UK.
That's a good sign. That's like linebacker mentality at
It is,
quarterback.
man.
That's always good. Yeah, Tim Tebow had that. I thought Andrew Luck had it. Those were two guys that I thought were like two of my favorite college quarterbacks to watch, because they were just some nasty dudes playing that spot. But yeah, the nature is big. Do you follow the Cypreneur, Joey the Cypreneur? He
Oh
takes
yeah,
daily.
man.
Yeah.
I've followed him since he was the Improvement Geek and had like 300 followers. He and
Uh
I
huh.
were interacting.
Yeah, he's the same. It's the daily walks, but you put it in a different way too. So one of those things I'm gonna add that to the list, because I don't get out enough. I'm inside a lot more than I'd like to be.
Yeah, I mean, the scientific benefits for it are just all over the place, from physical benefits to mental health benefits. It's really is amazing, and you don't have to be deep in a forest or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. Just even a city park where there's greenery around you or there's nature around you, that will provide benefit.
You know what my issue is? I'm always it's not good enough, so I'm not gonna do it.
Yep.
Like walking before. It's like I'm not gonna walk. That's not a workout. That's stupid. But it's like, no, if you go for walks, there's tremendous benefits from going out and walking. But the former athlete in me is like, that's lazy. That's walking. Stop. Or like going out to nature, right? It's like the park where I'm at is not good enough. I need to go out for a hike. That's what it needs to be. And but hiking takes more effort than the 5 minutes it takes me to go for the walk over here. So I make obstacles in my head to make it harder than I don't do it. It's like, okay, just go for the stupid walk, man. Just go.
Yeah, whenever that's a great point that I think people don't admit or bring up enough. And whenever I hear that, it always reminds me of this story when I was in college. We had a McDonald's across from our dorm, and tons of homeless people hung out there. And so when you were a college kid, they were always going to ask you for money.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this guy asked me he's like, "Hey, can you give me some money?" I was like, "Well, come on in here and I'll buy you some food." And he's like, "You buy me 2 meals?" I'm like, "No, man, I got money for 1 meal for you."
Yeah.
He said, "Well, if you can't buy me 2 meals, then just forget it." It's like, come on,
Yeah.
man. So it's kind
Yeah.
of that same thing that, just start somewhere.
Yeah.
Eat a
Yeah.
freaking meal, dude.
Yeah. Because I'm in Arizona, and the Grand Canyon is a good 4 hours from us, and so that was one of the things, like, oh, when we go to the Grand Canyon, there's a train that takes you from Williams to the Grand Canyon, and that'll be really cool to do that. And so it's like in my head, I'm like, oh, this is the, if we're gonna do it, let's do it big. And then I see the price tag. It's like, oh, okay, we got to save up for that. And then so you put it off, put it off, put it off, and then other things come along the way, and that money that you're supposed to use for that, you have kids, so then it's like, okay, this goes for this and that, and then so you don't go, you don't go, you don't go, you don't go, and finally, I was like, you know what, let's just go, and we're gonna have the experience that we have because we're gonna go and we're gonna do it. And so I think I'm pretty good at recognizing, hey, that this is a blind spot for me, or this is it could be a shortcoming, because I think it's good to dream big and do those things, but also don't let that keep you from making progress. And I was seeing that it was keeping me from maybe not making progress, but going and experiencing things. It's like,
Yeah.
just go. And the 15 minutes doesn't have to be a hike in the majestic forest. It could be, like you said, the city park,
Yeah.
or the neighborhood, right? Just get outside and don't be plugged into your phones or your headphones.
Yeah, that's back to that old thing of just start somewhere, start small, get moving. There's a good article on the Art of Manliness website about micro adventures.
Hmm.
Just small things that you can do yourself or with your family to get out and get moving and do something fun. Because we get stuck and we start planning these big huge things, and they turn out not to be feasible or not feasible at the time, and so we just never get there. But
Yeah.
start small, get moving. Yeah, amen.
Yeah. How is it going with I mean, 4 years now. Your son has changed quite a bit since you started, right? Because 4 years for a teenage boy, he's probably a lot bigger and a lot more strapping than he was 4 years ago. How has that been with on going on? Because you didn't start going with him, I believe, the first year, but then you started taking him out the second year going on. How has that been? Because that seems like a tremendous bonding experience with your boy.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got three boys and a girl. My oldest is 15. My youngest is getting ready to turn 12. So they're all right there in that little, kind of teenagers now.
Hmm.
Uh, my two oldest boys are both taller than me now.
Are they?
Yeah, and they do not let me forget it. They'll when they walk by me, they always stop and
Uh-huh.
kind of look down at me and just
Oh.
just remind me.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, they're growing up, turning into men. They all work out. My son, my oldest, I just started him on kind of a starting strength routine this week. He's always, not always, but he's been squatting and deadlifting and push-ups, pull-ups, all that for a while. But now's the time. He's finished with puberty. It's time for him to really hit it and really focus on going through a systematic strength routine to get stronger for his sports.
Hmm.
So they're kind of at that point where they're becoming men, and so out in the woods, it started. Really had my eye on it. New for both of us. Really want to make sure that we're being safe.
Hmm.
We're not as comfortable out there, so we're really paying attention. Now certainly we're still going to be safe, but we've got a habit of safety,
Hmm.
and we're more familiar with the places that we go. Not always, but most of the time. And so, he just shoulders a lot of the load. I don't worry about him much. He's just kind of out there. When we started bow hunting, we would be side by side or within a few feet of each other. Now I'll be in one spot and he may be 300 yards in another spot where we can't
Hmm.
see each other. And, that it's just nice for him to be able to kind of spread his wings and be out there. And, we don't go in until it's dark. And so when it's dark, he's got to figure out how to find me. And we're in
Hmm.
places where cell phones may work, cell phones may not work. He's got to be able to maneuver and get around in the dark and either find me or find his way back to the truck. And the truck's usually a mile or so away. So
Yeah.
it's just fantastic. Those walks out of the woods in the dark together, talking about our hunt, to him, I don't know what it means to him, but to me, it's some of the most treasured times in the world.
Yeah.
And I told him one time, I was like, look, one of these days you're going to be walking out of the woods with your son after
Hmm.
a hunt, and you're going to remember walking out with your dad.
Hmm.
And so, to me, that's just, you just can't put a price tag on that type of thing.
That's interesting that you said that, because I said that to my kids, because um, we just did the Yellowstone trip, and it was a lot of driving. It's 1,000 miles one way, and so we were in the car a lot. But once we got there, we had that experience of being there. And I told them, it's like, hey, one day, when you guys have your families, you guys are gonna come back and check it out, and you're gonna remember the time that we came here and we did this, because I remember when we were kids, we went to Yosemite. That would be like our thing, and so it was like my dad gave that to us, and now it's like this is us giving it to you guys. And my wife, they had their family trips too, so it's like, we want to build that appreciation of being outside in nature. But I think it's so cool that you said that, because I just had that conversation. I mean, my kids are younger, but like I want them to have those ideas in their head now. What were like some things, like, obviously nature is inspiring in itself. Were there any books that you read that kind of inspired you? Because I was talking to Jeff Putnam, and we were talking about like Jack London and the Call of the Wild. I remember reading those, and it would always kind of like, I think I need to reread them, but it stirred some things up in me. It was just like, man, being outside is something else.
You know, there really wasn't. And I'm not sure how it materialized. I remember what I did. I think we probably talked about this the first time around. Was I just remember at some point I was figuring, I was like, I need to figure out how to hunt,
Mm-hmm.
because it was something I grew up, like I said, in rural Kentucky, and lots of people hunted. I never did.
Mm-hmm.
My family didn't hunt. It was always, I was playing a sport, running around doing stuff like that. But as far as being out in the woods hunting, I knew nothing about it. And there just came a point where something inside of me, just, it was like, I need to figure this out, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
figure this out. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just reached out to a buddy of mine who I knew was proficient, and got with him, and he showed me the ropes, and pulled me along faster than I would have gone on my own for sure. But I don't think there was a book. I think it was just some type of stirring
Mm-hmm.
inside of me that, and I think it was part of this broader picture of, look, man, you just need to be more of a man. You need to get better at being a man. You can shoot a ball, you can throw a ball, you can do that stuff. You can, obviously you can write and read and speak and do all those things well. But, you know, if the grid goes down and you need to take care of your family, man, you can't do it. And so that kind of stung, and all that stuff kind of bubbling up inside of me led to, all right, I need to figure out how to hunt.
I think that might be it, because I've had that feeling too of this. It's so good right now, right? It is so good. Like we live in a, it's almost magical. Like you can go on Amazon and pick something out. It could literally be there in hours, depending on what you get, or the next day. Whereas before, it was days before you would get something. So it's like you would rather go to the store because you could get it. But now it's like I could just order it online. Like part of my thinking is like, this doesn't seem like it could. It is so good now. This can't. You don't want to think pessimistic, but it's like I don't know if this is sustainable. And if it's not sustainable, I'm relying on too many things outside of me, and I have people who rely on me. I need to be able to handle myself, and I think I've had that feeling too. I think that might have been the feeling. I don't want to speak for you, but I think I've had that feeling too. That's where I think a lot of the hunting. It's like, oh yeah, like it's not normal that I can go and just pick up some steaks from the grocery store. No, but in the last, that might be normal for the last 100 years, but before that, that was unheard of to be able to do that. You had to go and fish for yourself. You had to go ahead and hunt for yourself. So I'm living in a time where this is brand new, and it's as good as it's ever been. How long is that going to stay that way? And do I want my kids to not have food if something happened?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. It's the word you use, magical. That's exactly how, when our grandparents, or when my grandparents were kids, if you would have told them what life was like now, try to
Mm-hmm.
describe it to them, they'd said that it would be magic for
Mm-hmm.
those types of things to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. And hopefully, I think it's in the nature of mankind to continue to progress, to try to
Hmm.
find out an easier way to do things, and that's fine and that's good. But who knows how far it goes? Who knows how long it lasts? But if it doesn't last, it's going to be up. Jack Donovan says it this way: it's going to be up to the men to pick up the pieces and put it all back
Hmm.
together. And there'll be some men who can do it. Most of them won't be able to.
Yeah.
You and I want to be among the number who can get it done.
Right. Right. There's the personal pride of it, but it's also like, man, I love my wife and kids. They matter to me. So, getting comfortable now while the time is good, because you don't I think it goes back to game time, right? Like, you don't want to be getting coached up on how to hunt when you're starving now. Like,
That's right.
that's not the time to do it. You do it when this is practice. Man, that solidifies some things for me. I need to sit on that one for a minute.
Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah,
all
but
do.
but yeah, like, I mean, because there's that benefit, but also just the benefits. Like, man, this is time with your boy out there, no distractions. Like, I think a lot of fathers would want that for their kid. First of all, that he wants to spend time with you, right? Because you've cultivated a relationship where he's in his find myself stage, but he still wants to be with his dad, and you're able to do something that's cool and fun. But man, like, he's gonna remember that, and you're like you said, you're like, we're walking out, we're walking back to the truck together. It's like, yeah, this is one of my, I have a kid. It's like, we call those, what do you call them? Mind souvenirs. He calls those
Yeah,
mind souvenirs.
yeah.
Just keep them up in their brain. It's like, oh, this was a good day with my son or my daughter. I'm gonna hold on to this because they're growing up fast.
They are, man. With each passing day, our kids start relating to other people more than they do to us, or less
Mm.
with us and more to other people. They start relating to their friends more and more and more. And, eventually they leave home and, we're just a small part of their lives. But the things that we build into them now, uh, man, that's what gets them through. That's what shapes who they become. And if the relationship's strong when they're young, even though they start relating to other people more, they're still going to want to talk to dad. They're still, because they're going to respect us. They're
Hmm.
going to respect what we've poured into them. They're going to respect what we've done with our lives. Uh, and sometimes that doesn't happen until they're past the teenage years.
Yeah.
You
Or
know,
they'll have kids of their own. How was that with their friend group? Are you active now in them selecting their friends? Because they're a little older now, like the 15-year-old. It's like, hey, they're gonna have their friend groups at school and things like that. But um, how was that for you, as far as them and friends and?
well, we're very involved as far as discussions about who they spend their time with. Now I try to give them a lot of freedom. Like this past Friday night, there was a high school football game. My oldest is freshman in high school. Then we've got an eighth grader and a seventh grader. Well, all three of them went to the high school football game by themselves,
Hmm.
and they had instructions on how they were supposed to behave, places to avoid, where they were
Hmm.
supposed to spend most of their time, those types of things. Uh, and then beyond that, we'll talk about, all right, I know you hang out with Johnny. Here's the great things I've seen about Johnny. Here are some concerns I may have about Johnny. Think
Hmm.
about those things. And
Yeah.
and we always have the conversation with our kids of, all right, think about who you're going to be. Who do you want to be? Because the people that you spend your time with are going to influence who you are and who you're going to be.
Hmm.
And so we're always having those types of conversations about how they're going to act, who they're going to spend their time with, and who they want to be. And we'll give them freedom to make decisions in all of those areas. And then we'll evaluate their decisions to the extent that we know about them.
Hmm.
I don't know everything my kids did at that football game.
Right.
They may
Right.
have made great decisions. They may have made some bad decisions. I don't know. But generally, I know what's going on. And so we have conversations fairly regularly around those topics. And the great thing about having multiple kids close in age, they kind of are watching each other.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and so they can look out for each other. They can hold each other accountable, that type of thing. If
Right.
one of
Right.
them, if one of them goes off the rails, it's going to be hard to hide it from all of their siblings.
Yeah. Are you in the same town that you grew up in, or is this a new town?
No, I'm in Lexington. Lexington. Well, I work in Lexington, which is about 330,000 people. We just moved across the county line into a different county. So they don't go to school in Lexington. They go to school in a smaller town
Uh
that
huh.
has probably 30, 40,000 people, something like that. So they're in a more rural school district, but still connected to the second largest city in the state.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that. I was speaking to somebody, and they work in education, and the town was like 20,000, thirty
Yeah.
thousand people, and they were like, well, when kids don't really act up in class because it's like, well, the teacher might be, one of the students' moms. The big one was when the substitute came, it was like, well, the substitute is the vice principal's neighbor. So he'll come in and say, hey, this is my neighbor. So don't be a jackass. Because I went to a big school. So when the substitute came in, I was acting a fool. Because I'm just, it didn't know anybody. The subs were they were just throw a movie on, whatever. But in a small town, it was like, no, that's so and so's mom, that's so and so's grandpa, that's my neighbor. Like, things are gonna get back there. You have that whole community. It's like, okay, like you don't you treat people that a little differently than you do. It's just, someone who just seems like a stranger. And that's why I wanted to ask that, because it's like, in a town like that too, it's like, hey, if your boys are, acting up or whatever, it's like, hey, we saw Johnny at the football game. You might need to have a talk with him. And so, there's those
Yep.
extra, now we have those, what are those ring cameras watching you. But before, it was like, the grandmas at the football game were watching your kids
Right.
too, and they
Right.
and they and they'd let you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, look, I told you my town was 3,800 people growing up, so I know
Hmm.
all about, everybody knows everybody, and if you step out of line and somebody sees it, it's getting back to your parents. So yeah, that's a good situation.
Did you like that? Because I know some people have said that they did not like the small town because everybody would be in your business. So there was the drawbacks to it, but I mean, for you.
Definite drawbacks, but especially now that I'm older, I appreciate the sense of community and
Hmm.
that type of thing. Now, when I was younger, everybody wanted to get out of there because there wasn't anything to do, and
Hmm.
we didn't get the cool music and the cool style trends until
Hmm.
after everybody else did. So yeah, we wanted to get away when we were kids, but
Hmm.
now that I'm older, you really appreciate the community that you
Yeah,
grew up in.
yeah. Because I think now, I'm in the suburbs, but here it's pretty transitory. People stay 2 to 5 years and they move, and there's not like, hey, these are the Smiths. Their family's been here for 20, 30 years. They all went to the school here. There's roots in the community.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who I think are, I'll say, rootless, and I think that kind of goes back to the anxiety too. It's like, you have people with no roots, you have people who are not outside in nature. It's like that does seem like a recipe for a healthy individual, and without a healthy individual, I don't think the society itself is not very healthy.
Yeah, Sebastian Younger wrote this book called Tribe. And one of these quotes in there is that we have tons of people who are surrounded by people, but incredibly lonely.
Hmm.
And so when you don't have those roots and you don't have that sense of community, that is exactly where people end up.
I think you had mentioned that last time, so I think I'm going to pick that up. This is a two-time mention from Stephen Marshall, so I'm at to check that out, because
Yeah.
recommendations from you, I don't take that lightly. What was it you say? You just said something right now. Dang it, had me. Oh, we talked about roots, right?
Yeah.
Shoot, I just lost it. Anyway, Sebastian Younger.
Sebastian Younger, Junger. Book's called Tribe.
What did you wait? What'd you say about what'd you say again? Because I was writing it down. And you said something. It's like that's good. Do you remember?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What did you say about Sebastian Younger's tribe? You said that we're rootless and what?
He said people are surrounded. He said you're surrounded by thousands of people, yet incredibly lonely.
Yeah.
And he's
Well,
talked about
yeah.
how people, we're around people all the time, but unless you've got some type of connection to those people, you're still lonely.
Okay, that's what my thought was. Family, because I think that with the whole coronavirus stuff, like for me, I was happy because it was like everybody that I love is here in my house. Like I got kids galore. My bed is full. Like kids come in. My wife, I adore her, but it was people who were by themselves who I think had the hardest time because they would go to work and that's where they would get that connection, even if they were just coworkers and stuff like that. So like for me, like my family is that's my tribe. Like these are this is what I'm building. And I think, I mean, I haven't read the book. I'm looking forward to it because, again, a two-time recommendation from my boy Stephen
Yeah.
Marshall. I don't take that lightly. But if you're intentionally build your family, like I'm having a big family intentionally because I want them to be able to rely on each other, because I've seen, like, I had friends growing up, but I moved away, and they're doing their thing. And you think that your friends are gonna be like, hey, we're gonna be boys forever. But it's like, no, man. Jobs will take you anywhere, but your family, you'll go and you'll travel for your family.
Yeah,
Your
for
blood really
sure.
does stick around. And you might have disagreements with them, but along you never stop being siblings, and eventually you can reconcile. But it's not like that with your friends necessarily.
Yeah.
So I want to give my kids the opportunity to have enough siblings where it's like there's somebody who shares your name that is going to have your back, and to build that. Now, just like your boys going out, like if you're gonna get in trouble and you guys are all on the same page, like I have all my kids don't hear this podcast, but I'm kind of cool with that. Like if you guys are gonna be on the same page, but you guys are having each other's back, I'm almost okay with just don't do anything too crazy. If you guys listen, kids, if you listen to this in 20 years, don't don't do anything too crazy, all right? But you know what I mean. But like, right, like it's like, hey, it's like if we're all together in this, like I want my kids to be together.
Yeah, I will die a happy man if my kids grow up, to serve their purpose, and at the end of my life, they still love each other and are still
Mm-hmm.
connected.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the best things. One of the things my wife is really good at is emphasizing that with the kids,
Mm-hmm.
that she wants them to be close. Because I've got four, and they're all different.
Mm-hmm.
Their personalities and interests are not necessarily the same. My oldest and my youngest connect pretty naturally. My middle two connect pretty naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But all four of them don't connect naturally with each other, and so they have to
Mm-hmm.
work at it, and they have to be
Yeah.
committed to it. And that's one of the things that we try to instill in them is, look, man, God has given you friends, close
Mm-hmm.
friends that will never leave your side.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't care. Get mad at them if you want to. Don't like them sometimes if you don't want to. That's fine. But commit your life to them being successful and
Mm-hmm.
own their success as your success, because you're going to shape each other and build each other. And so, just getting them to commit to that and to honor that and appreciate that is, one part of what we're trying to do as parents.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. I know, like for us, we try to build that, but it's like if a kid has a game, it's like we're all going
Yeah.
and we're all gonna cheer and we're all gonna support, whoever's out there, because when it's your turn, we're all going, we're all gonna cheer. If you have something, we're all gonna collectively, you know, put our efforts into supporting you to launch you out to know that, hey, that your family is here, that we support you, we love you, because this is your tribes. Because when you go out and you get disconnected in the world and things are going crazy, you have a place that's a refuge or a safe place, that mommy and daddy love you, that your sisters and your brothers, that that you have that here.
Yeah. Amen. Amen.
It's good to know there's other people like that, because you know you don't always get to hear people's thoughts on these things really, like at the barbecue. So it's always good to hear.
Man, and in my world, what I see a lot of times is in the legal world, what you see are families that are fighting with each other,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's because dad died and now we're trying to divide up the estate and they're all trying to take from each other and they hate each other, or it's custody disputes and one wants to go live here, one wants to go live there, and they don't like each other. I always see or I regularly see when it blows apart, and
Yeah,
that's really sad. It's
yeah,
awful, and so yeah, we got to keep our kids connected to each other, not just with us.
for sure. I think this is a good wrapping up point here, Stephen. And Stephen sends out his newsletter. I subscribe to his newsletter, so I highly recommend that you sign up for his newsletter. I'm a W-2 guy, but he's a guy that goes out into nature and takes on things. I think he's a great person to speak to. So that's why I had him on the second time on the podcast. But subscribe to his newsletter. He drops great newsletters. Anything else before we go, Stephen?
No, just don't be afraid to yell at Joel and I on Twitter when we're engaged in nonsense.
That's where the relationships are built. The ball busting. I'm a fan. You're a fan. That's why we get
Amen.
along.
Right on.
All right. This is the Read Your Keys podcast. He is Stephen Marshall, the man's life husband, father, attorney. You can find him on Twitter at the man's life and his website, themanslife.com. Again, I highly encourage you to sign up for his newsletter. He is my friend, Stephen Marshall. Thanks so much for listening today, everybody.